Are World Cup games in Boston under threat? Could Spurs poach Poch? And we count down to kickoff with AC Boise's first ever supporters group. That and much more on Wednesday's edition of Morning Kick Around. Hello, all, and welcome to the show. You found your way to Morning Kick Around, the show that dots the map of the ever-changing American soccer landscape. My name, Robert Kerr, local soccer guy, and to my side, as always, Jason Davis, radio soccer guy. Welcome all to the show. How you doing, partner?
I'm good. I know we have some slightly distressing World Cup news today on the show. We have this possibility, at least an idea, that Tottenham Hotspur could steal our U.S. men's national team head coach. We do have some good things to talk about, though. I mean, I don't know how you think about MLS club valuations, but
they get me fired up. They get me fired up.
Line go up is a thing in the world we live in, Rob. And then obviously they were talking supporters for a brand new club in Boise, Idaho. That's exciting.
Yeah, it'll be a unique perspective. What is it like to be just weeks away from becoming a fan? They're already fans, but seeing their club in action for the first ever time, what will it look like? A debut season could be triumph, could be tragedy. We shall see. They're on the edge of that experience. Thank you all. New MK Ultras. Shout out to all the members of the channel. And if you'd like to support the show, you can become just for free, no cost at all. You can subscribe. You can become an MK Ultra. And Jason's going to say hello in a minute, or you can tell a friend. What you got?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're setting it up. I'm going to say hello. I want to say hi to Mr. Bob, who's again in here doing the work, helping us out, growing the show. Mr. Bob in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Mr. Bob also has an idea for us, Rob, which we were going to address that idea after the show. And maybe that'll be, I don't know if that's going to be a members only situation, an ultras only situation, or if we're going to talk about it publicly. But Mr. Bob has an idea for us that I will talk about here in just a second. We'll see. Bob's in the room. I guess Bob was worried he might miss the show, but it does look like he's here. We got Roger. Shout out to Roger. Jeff from Fayetteville, North Carolina, who was very anxious to tell everybody about the new J. Cole album from Fayetteville. J. Cole, it's a whole North Carolina thing. Let's see. We've got I Play French Horn from Marietta, Georgia in the room. York, Pennsylvania. I put up a non-ultra. Matt, you got to fix this, but you're getting a shout out today. River Guard. Let's see. Purcellville, Virginia, my old stomping grounds, PSU to DCU. So shout out to our ultras. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. If you'd like to become an ultra, it's just $4.99 a month, I believe. And that button is just right below here. And if you'd like to support in another way, there's super thanks, donations, and more. You can also visit ko-fi.com/morningkickaround to donate on that platform as well. We're also a podcast, Morning Kick Around, on all your favorite
favorite podcast platforms. I just noticed how bad my hair is this morning, but also I wanted to say that with the Morning Kick Around Kickathon coming up next week, Rob, is that a week from today? The Morning Kick Around Kickathon 2026. We have lined up a couple of very interesting guests. I think we're going to mix some history into that show. We have games that are cooking. Producer Jenny's been on the task of making a Jeopardy for us. So that'll be fun. I think the idea might be to involve the ultras. If you want to play games on the Morning Kick Around Kickathon, you got to be an ultra. And we'll find some way to maybe do a lottery or something, or people can obviously volunteer in the Discord, which is where the ultras hang out, and we'll figure out who gets to play, Rob, because I know people want to play games.
Yeah, games are fun, and it'll be a new addition to the show. We haven't included that into our repertoire just yet, so that'll be a nice change of pace for our 3+ hour show, our first ever marathon stream here on the program. And before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's show, one more announcement. Support us on social media at MKickaround. People have been finding us over there slowly but surely. But be sure to give us a follow over there. That helps the reach of the program overall. And if you'd like to volunteer for a game, send us a tip on a story, or if you have any sort of commercial or business inquiries, morningkickaround@gmail.com.
Yes, maybe you want to tell us the story of your club in your town and the thing you're working on in American soccer. We want to give you a platform.
Yep, there's over 100 USL2 clubs. There's hundreds of UPSL clubs in amongst of the 90 or so professional clubs we have. I don't know if those numbers are accurate, but a plethora of American soccer clubs. And write us if you'd like to spill the beans and tell us and inform our audience about your club. You ready to get to the show?
Let's go.
All right, let's kick our long balls here on Wednesday's Morning Kick Around. We're leading today's show with World Cup news. So I'll remind you that Morning Kick Around's World Cup coverage is brought to you by Oakland County Football Club, celebrating 10 years of summer soccer in Southeast Michigan in 2026. Visit Oakland County FC's Instagram for player and schedule announcements as OCFC battle this year for their first Great Lakes Division Championship. All right, to the news. Is the biggest World Cup ever being scaled down, Jason?
Well, yeah, I mean, we got a couple of things out of Massachusetts, and then we have this general concern I think people would be right to have about the way our federal government plans to involve itself in World Cup activities, specifically at stadiums on game day. I don't know. Let's start with what's going on in Massachusetts, Rob. First and foremost, I think the headline here is what's going on in Foxborough. So catch us up there.
Yes, the town of Foxborough, where Gillette Stadium is threatening to withhold an entertainment license from the FIFA World Cup if it does not receive the $7.7 million required for security funding during the tournament. As part of the original hosting agreement between the host cities and FIFA. Host cities' overall responsibility for costs comprises safety, security, and protection, including all related and safety security measures for the individuals. However, some federal funding for host cities, but it doesn't cover it all, and that's leaving a $7.7 million gap, which the town of Foxborough is saying they should not be responsible for.
Yeah, this is part and parcel of the World Cup experience for local governments, right? It's why Chicago, Illinois is not hosting any World Cup games.
They were out of their lickety-split.
They were like, hey, let's look at this contract. You want us to pay for what? No, thank you. You want us to not collect any tax on what you make in our no, what are you talking about? And look, again, this is the hard part about being a soccer fan, especially in America. It's like you want to see the sport grow. You want to see a World Cup explode interest in this game that we are so passionate about. I've been waiting for this moment for how long is it since 94? 30 plus years now, 30 something years. I want this to be the biggest possible party and show for soccer it can be. And yet I also understand Chicago. I also understand Foxborough here in this situation with this $7.5 million shortfall in terms of security funding. So again, is this going to be a problem that keeps games from happening at Foxborough? Probably not. According to the Boston Business Journal, Bill Yugna, the chair of the Foxborough Select Board, said in a meeting last week that local officials had presumed the Kraft Group, the owners of the New England Patriots, the New England Revolutions, and Gillette Stadium itself, would cover for the cost for security in the same way they do for Patriots games. Yet, because the owners have effectively sublet the venue to FIFA for the tournament, the Kraft Group is not currently fulfilling this function, leaving that funding gap. The town of Foxborough does not believe local taxpayers are obliged to fund a global sporting event. Why would they? Why? I mean, I understand there's that economic boom that is promised, and I know Massachusetts officials, including the governor and the mayor of Boston, we'll get to Boston in a second, have said, oh, this is going to be $1 billion of injection of economic growth or economic activity in the state of Massachusetts. But these towns like Foxborough, because, I mean, if this was Boston, maybe it'd be different. I don't know, Rob, but this is obviously not Boston. This is Foxborough. They just
Yeah.
happen to be a place where Robert Kraft could build his stadium, right? Well, you replace his old stadium, which was in Foxborough from the very old days of the Patriots. They shouldn't have to pay this. They shouldn't have to step up with money that for them is a big line item in their budget. The town has placed a March 17th deadline to receive its funding to grant the license. So they are saying, this is our town. You can't play games here unless we tell you you can, unless we give you this license. And we ain't giving you this license until somebody pays the security bill. And I don't blame them.
Yeah, that's a funky situation. Like you said, I feel like that's going to get resolved. The weight and just the commercial power and pressure that's coming somewhere along the way. Someone's going to write that check to fill that gap. Who it'll be, we'll see. But another note to this is when FanFest and the World Cup were first announced, talking about FanFest in the major host cities that would be having FanFest. And now we're talking about just 16 days, and in other cities, just select individual days.
Yeah, there has always kind of been this tradition of when the fan fests happen, they cover the entire tournament. I want to go out and watch the game on a big screen with a bunch of people from my community. I want to engage in the social activity that comes through this incredible sport. I'm going to go to the fan fest in whatever town is hosting the games. And yet again, because of costs, people like Michelle Wu of Boston, the mayor of Boston, are saying, wait a second, we probably can't do this. Like, we want to. And this is a trade-off here. What Boston is saying is we could do a 39-day fan fest or whatever it would be for the entire tournament, but we would have to charge in order to make this work from a budget perspective. Like, okay, should we look at the school system in the face and said, we can't fund you because we had to pay for a fan fest for FIFA to come and have World Cup games 45 minutes down the road in Foxborough, right? Let's remember that part too. I just don't, again, the fact that FIFA has continued to push the envelope on what it extracts from host countries instead of looking at this as an opportunity to lift up those host countries. And really, again, FIFA is not short on cash. Right. And FIFA will always say, well, we have to build the game everywhere else. Well, what about, I mean, you can't suck money out of Boston or Foxborough or any of these other places and act like that's not going to be a problem with the people that live there. And even the people that are soccer fans are still going to look at this and go, this isn't a good deal for us.
Additional note there, news this week too that came out in The Athletic. People were wondering what will the security and the ICE presence be in these cities. And in this article that came out in The Athletic, written by Colin Miller, came out actually just this morning. Todd Lyons, ICE's acting director, says ICE will be playing a key role in the security and operations at these host cities.
Yeah, look, I caught this yesterday when he said it in front of Congress, in front of this panel, the House of Representatives, and again, Democrat Nellie Pooh, who represents Northern New Jersey and the area of the Meadowlands and MetLife Stadium, said, you know, what's going on here with ICE? We don't really want, I mean, at the end, obviously the implication was we really don't want ICE involved in game day activities around the World Cup, which is obviously going to draw a lot of people either from outside the country or people who maybe want to go to games who would be risking deportation under the current administration if they went to these games. Now, Colin Miller in his piece does say ICE, which is split into two sectors, commonly provides intelligence and security at international sporting events. But what Todd Lyons is not saying, like, that may be a thing that's happened before, even before this current push to deport people and round people up. And I'm not going to get into some of the other things happening right now that make my blood run cold about what's going on around this administration.
Ongoing atrocities.
But the thing about this is that, of course, those things happening bring this perception, this belief on the part of people who might be going to the games that that's the kind of role that ICE is going to play at the World Cup. right? If you remember the threats that were made about the Super Bowl because Bad Bunny was named as the halftime entertainment and certain people in the administration didn't like that. And then they said, well, we're going to go and flood Santa Clara and Levi Stadium. Ultimately, nothing happened there. It proved to be an empty threat. And I'm glad that's the case. But we can't, people who may be considering going out to games and supporting their nation, their country, their home country, if they live here and maybe aren't 100% sure. And even those, by the way, who do have paperwork, who do have a reason to be here, are getting rounded up. I'm just going to make this personal for a second. My wife is Puerto Rican. She was born a U.S. citizen. By the way, they could take that away tomorrow if they wanted to, because birthright citizenship doesn't apply to Puerto Rico. But she is a citizen now. She works for the federal government, and she still says, I need to take my passport with me when I go out. And
Do her own job.
And it's not crazy that she's thinking that. But when she travels, she works for the federal government. She travels on behalf of the federal government, and she thinks, I got to take my passport domestically, not for international travel, domestically, because I have to be careful about because of how I sound when I talk, right? So now we're talking about a World Cup that's going to attract thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people who, if they speak English, are going to speak it with an accent. And here is Todd Lyons saying, yeah, we're going to have, ICE is going to be there. ICE is dedicated to ensuring everyone who visits the facilities will have a safe and secure event. Your idea of safe and secure is different than mine, Todd.
Yeah, it sure is. And then on top of that, outside of like the immediate threats and dangers, people want surety with investments. So the amount of money that's being talked about for buying a ticket and traveling is a huge investment. And you want a little bit of guarantee, let alone you'd be disappointed if like the tickets fell through and you spent a lot of money on it. When you're thinking about there's actual cause for my personal safety, and you're weighing that with an outlay of thousands of dollars, it could certainly, as per the chat is saying, that could definitely have a chilling effect on the attendance for World Cup 2020.
And let's just for a second acknowledge the insanity that is Gianni Infantino, who, by the way, was spotted at Gillette Stadium when the Patriots were playing in the NFL playoffs, and I believe was at the Super Bowl with Robert Kraft, which I suggested was going to be a thing because I knew they were buddies. So Gianni Infantino, he was asked, or there was a request for comment from FIFA about this Foxborough story, and FIFA did not respond to a question of whether or not Infantino spoke about this issue with Robert Kraft when he was at the Super Bowl. The president of FIFA is cozying up to the people who are involved in exactly what's going on here. Now, Robert Kraft is not part of the government, but he certainly is somebody who has some involvement in everything that's going on. But Gianni Infantino has also cozied up to the administration. And here they are potentially throwing cold water over the biggest sporting event on the planet. And what is he doing? What is Gianni Infantino doing?
Drinking champagne. When they asked him about it, he had to look up from his shrimp cocktail.
He's still wiping the brown stuff off his nose, is what he's doing.
Well, we're just a couple months away from this, and we will continue covering the lead into World Cup 2026. And Oakland County FC is bringing the World's game to our local neighborhood. And our World Cup coverage is brought to you by Oakland County Football Club, celebrating 10 years of summer soccer in Southeast Michigan in 2026. Visit Oakland County FC on Instagram for player and schedule announcements. All right, let's move on to our next story here in Long Balls. News broke overnight that Thomas Frank has been relieved of his duties from Tottenham Hotspur. So that puts us in an interesting situation. Is the men's national team in danger of having Poch poached?
Yeah, this is the story. I'm sorry, that's the wrong graphic. Let me see if I can find the right one. Miguel Delaney writing at The Athletic about Pochettino and the possibility that Tottenham might be interested in bringing him back. I mean, it makes sense that they would want to bring Pochettino back. If you look at the recent history of management at Tottenham Hotspur, only one name lasted more than like a year and a half, and it's Mauricio Pochettino. They were singing in the terraces about him during that loss to Newcastle yesterday. That's where we're at with this. They're pining for Poch's return. So it makes sense that the leadership at Tottenham would be targeting Pochettino. The question is whether they could do that before the World Cup. And here's the headline from Miguel Delaney: Tottenham want Pochettino reunion, but World Cup may force plan B. And then the copy here that I thought was interesting, and this is actually the lead of the story: Tottenham consider Mauricio Pochettino to be their ideal new manager and would like to install the Argentine coach immediately, but could be forced to turn towards a contingency plan due to the 2026 World Cup. And former boss Pochettino is still admired at the club and is seen as the preferred option right now. But Pochettino's role as U.S. head coach at with the World Cup just months away has complicated matters. First, I think there's a couple things. One, again, we know Tottenham will want Pochettino and they'll want him as quickly as possible. Why would they want to install an interim manager if they don't have to? However, is there really do we believe that Pochettino would walk away from the U.S. men's national team right now, which would mean leaving money on the table, right? Because he wouldn't get paid the contract he has with the U.S. if he quits on the U.S. He would have to leave that. He would have to be fired, I would imagine, to be paid out the $6 million annual salary that he signed up for with the Americans. I don't think that he's a guy who would do that. I think he would. I think he is committed to the U.S. challenge for the moment, but I bet you he'll be enticed by this. I bet you his ears are perked up right now, and there's conversations. He's rubbing a bunch of lemons thinking about this, Rob.
There's probably some American outlaws being a little bit nervous about this right now because Spurs hasn't been the same since he left, and Poch is definitely, that was, one of his peaks obviously was at Spurs, and it is awkward timing here a little bit. And there's some interviews he says he always wanted to go back to Spurs, so there's a little bit of
he said he has
there
fond feelings about Spurs. Didn't he have lunch with Daniel Levy or something like last year, and people freaked out about it? So people freaked out about it. I don't know that was because they thought that it would be a disaster for the U.S. if Pochettino left, because I'm not sure at the time most U.S. men's national team fans were feeling good about Pochettino's leadership, right? Because the good vibes around the U.S. men's national team are fairly recent, right?
Yeah, like it was not good until the fall.
The fall of 2025 is when things started to turn a corner. Now, you could look at that and go, as a national team fan, look at that, go, we did turn the corner. I'm backing Poach. Like, this is great. Let's go. We're headed towards a World Cup. Maybe we're going to do something big here. Pochettino's figured some stuff out. But if you are not sold that Pochettino's the right guy, and that hasn't fundamentally changed despite turning a corner, maybe you see that as a mirage of some type. Maybe it's a false dawn. Then would it be the end of the world if Pochettino walked away right now? I mean, I think it matters who you replace him with, Rob. But would it matter if Pochettino walked away right now?
Oh, I think it definitely matters. I think his spell been a year and a half or so. And like you said, we're just now turning the corner, seeing some positive results, seeing something galvanize in the group and a little bit of positivity. It's pretty dark there for most of Pochettino's tenure. But I got to say, does Spurs have a former player or somebody else, a club man, a la what Manchester United is doing? Michael Carrick, do they have someone that can be a long-term interim? Because I feel like it would make sense for the common thought is that Pochettino is going to step away after the World Cup, right? And so if there's somebody that can take the reins, steady the ship, so to speak, at Spurs until the World Cup, I could see that change. But do they have a Michael Carrick type at Tottenham?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, well, you're not bringing back Tim Sherwood. Like, what are you doing if you're Tottenham? That's a good question, right? There isn't sort of this group of former players who have a sense of your club. Ryan Mason has been interim for them before. I don't know. Again, it's probably going to be something like that, whether it's Ryan Mason or somebody else. It'll be an interim situation. But obviously, the problem for Spurs isn't just we need somebody to man this situation until we get to the summer. It's we need somebody to keep us from falling into the relegation battle, to keep us out of the relegation zone. And that requires you won't really feel great about Ryan Mason taking control and trying to lead this team so that they're not really I don't think they're going down, Rob. But now there's chaos and turmoil and doubt around this. So look, I don't think Tottenham I don't think they can entice Pochettino to walk away for the U.S. men's national team. I don't think that's going to happen. But obviously, there will be a lot of conversation about it from now until the United States is out of the World Cup.
Going to the Ultras now. What do they think about this topic? Pochettino poached? We shall see. I mean, there is the suggestion of Ryan Mason in here. Some folks saying maybe BJ Callahan would be the US's interim manager, and a homeless shoe, a chance to do the funniest thing and step in there. Wilfred Nancy, an interim manager or an emergency manager for the American team?
I
What do you
mean,
think?
no, I don't think that would be a thing. I see Sluggo says BJ Callahan. BJ is doing good in Nashville. I don't think he would want to leave that job and go to an international job, which doesn't have a whole lot of stability, right? That's the thing. So if we play this out, if we game this out to maybe Pochettino is enticed to walk away from the U.S. men's national team and go back to Spurs right now, where would the U.S. turn? What would be the right guy for that job? And again, I mean, you've had sort of the people that were there under Greg Berhalter, who would be like the ideal momentary, temporary, but not ideal in the sense they wouldn't be brand new to the program. BJ Callahan, he's now in Nashville. Mikey Veras, he's now in San Diego. Marko Mitrovic, he's now in New England. Like, these are all people who have had recent experience within the U.S. program at various levels. And you might want BJ over all of them, but again, you're not getting BJ. He's contracted to Nashville. He had a very good first season with Nashville last year, right? They're eyeing big things in 2026. Like, there isn't Bob Bradley.
Oh,
He ain't doing nothing.
That's an interesting shout. I do see Sluggo asking, could Pochettino do both jobs? Now, that would be a bit of a handful, right? I mean, there's no way he'd be focused on monitoring all the players and getting preparations and his plan together for the logistics of everything and pick up the pieces of, one of the biggest commercial clubs in the entire world. That would be, I mean, I'm sure he would take double paychecks. I'm sure most people would, but you can't imagine they would do either job at its fullest capacity. One of the things I love about our Ultras, they often surprise me, some things in history that I didn't know. I play French horn, bringing up something I'm not quite sure. Do we know Detmer Kramer?
I don't know.
Detmer Kramer bailed on the men's national team to take a helmet at Bayern Munich. Got to do some research on that. But that brings me to remind everybody about this time next week, we will be doing the Kickathon 2026, our first marathon stream here on the show. We're going to be having a lot of special guests, and involved in that will be some guests that will dip into some history. So maybe we'll ask about Detmer Kramer bailing on the men's national team, but in amongst our extended marathon episode, games, special guests, and a lot of announcements too.
Yeah, I'm learning about Detmar Kramer. 1974, this happened, Rob. So
deep cut from Georgia there. Deep cut French horn.
That is ancient by American soccer standards. I mean, most people go, we had a team in 1974. What are you talking about?
That's definitely a dead zone for the national team. But I think the global soccer landscape has changed for a team. It's understandable. A men's national team compared to Bayern Munich in the 70s, that seems like a bit of a no-brainer in all honesty. But the Pochettino situation, we'll see.
This is the question as we get ready to transition here. Which job is more attractive right now? The U.S. men's national team or Tottenham Hotspur?
Well, he's definitely, I feel like he's more beloved at Spurs. He definitely enjoyed some great success, got Spurs to the Champions League, probably one of their best eras for one of the biggest clubs, and certainly in a generation. I'm sure he's definitely tempted. He has a soft spot, get a lot of success, but it would definitely be hard on the men's national team program if he were to deviate from the current course and go back to Spurs. Obviously, longevity-wise, I think that Spurs is probably more attractive. But right here, right now, on the doorstep of the World Cup.
Wait. Longevity-wise, Spurs is more attractive?
Yeah, because do we realistically think that Pochettino is going to be in this job with the men's national team after the final game in the World Cup?
But he could be if he wants to be, depending on the result. And I expect, well, I mean, again, you don't know the result. But if we imagine the U.S. gets out of the group and maybe wins a game round of 32, gets to the round of 16, that would probably that would probably engender another contract offer from US Soccer. They're not going to want to just dump him and move on. There may be a tacit agreement that he's walking after the World Cup. I understand that. But you're saying that Spurs would be more stable? I don't think so.
Maybe longevity was the incorrect word, because he could definitely be turned around and fired with the carousel that has been the Spurs coach since
That's what
left.
I'm saying. Yes, exactly. He's not immune from getting the sack if they're not winning games and doing better than Thomas Frank had them doing or Ange Postecoglou had them doing. Right? Like that this is what I'm saying. He could easily get another cycle. They would have to qualify. By the way, qualifying structure for CONCACAF is out for 2030. We should talk about that with John Arnold at some point. But he could easily take another cycle. He probably doesn't want it, right? This is a sojourn. This is a side project. This is a momentary thing, an experience when he was out of a job after walking away from very chaotic Chelsea, which again speaks to maybe he doesn't want to walk back into a chaotic job unless he does think that he's going to be able to turn the ship around. Okay, it's a good conversation. He's not leaving. That's my take on this.
No poach from Jason, and I remain undecided. We shall see how this all plays out. Our guest is waiting in the wings, so we're going to turn our attention to Countdown to Kickoff with AC Boise here on Wednesday's edition of Morning Kickaround. With 24 days until AC Boise kicks off their inaugural game of professional soccer, we turn our attention to the supporters. We're now we'd like to welcome in Ryan Pritchett from the River Guard supporters group for the club. Just under a month to go. How you feeling?
Good morning, guys. It's really early here. Yeah, we're excited. We're bouncing off the walls right now. Although there's a million things to do before we get to that first game here at home. We've got an extra month because our first 4 games are away. So we've got a lot going on, trying to get everybody rallied and get our things together. So yeah, it's amazing.
I'm messing with our screen setup just for a second because I want everybody to see Ryan's name and the River Guard. It gets cut off a bit when we go with the 3 box, which I'm going to take us back to just because it's a slightly better view for everybody. Ryan, so give me some history here. Give me some background. Soccer for you in Boise, the wait for a pro team, was that something that were you waiting, or was this something that kind of happened and you just jumped in with both feet?
Yeah, I mean, for me, we've never had pro sports here. We've had a bunch of minor league teams. I grew up here, went to school here, and I did what most kids do, which is move to the big city. And I went to Seattle, where I absolutely fell in love with my Sounders. And I was there from 2009 all the way up until we moved back to Boise in 17. And that for me was, something when I moved back here, I have been missing like you wouldn't believe. I fly to Seattle, a couple times every season just to go to matches, travel down to RSL to watch them play, maybe over to the little stepbrother in Portland. But yeah, that for me has been missing big time. And when I found out we were getting a team, it was like, wow, you're kidding, right? Like, this isn't really happening in Boise. Boise, we have a million kids that play soccer, but you talk to a lot of adults and they're like, oh yeah, it's really boring, right? They're not into it. And I think what you've seen since they announced the team and word is spread, people are getting really excited. So we're stoked.
That's great to hear that there's a bit of a groundswell going, and I guess the focus or the appreciation for the sport is spreading beyond the active youth ranks. So kind of fast forward, like when did the supporters group is the River Guard. The team hasn't kicked a ball yet, at least in an official game. How did the group come about?
Well, like all things these days, it started on the internet through some Reddit or a subreddit back and forth comment section. I kid, but it really started, I think, on day one at the team announcement when they kind of did the brand announcement. and they talked about what was coming. Here's the colors, here's the logo. And they said not a single word about supporters, not one. Like, here's what we have planned. And so there were a few people there who are part of our leadership group who were like, what the heck? All right, I guess we're doing this. And they went out to all the socials and started talking about it. And I kind of kept seeing the same thing pop up from one person, and I vehemently disagreed with him. And it was like, hey, let's get together and sit down at a bar. And Roger, who is our other co-president, we didn't know each other from anybody. We sat down, had a couple pints, and we turned this thing into, from nothing to something. We just hit like 110 members, I think, yesterday. We haven't kicked a ball, right? We've met most of the people that have become members, but we're seeing memberships from all over the state come in, people that plan on being here, and really understanding supporters culture, which is amazing.
Yeah, so that's obviously part of this, right? And we as American soccer fans, right? I'm sure you remember this from the Sounders entering MLS. If you were there in 09, the Sounders had existed, so there was a culture that got pulled into Major League Soccer. We get into our heads about how we're supposed to do all these things, right? Are we supposed to be copying what they do on the terraces in England? Are we supposed to be aping South Americans' football culture? Where do we take our cues? Can we do any of that without being cheesy and dorky and all that stuff? I don't care. Like, I'm past this thing about judging song sheets and things like that, and capos and because we have to start somewhere. So how have you and Roger and everybody else in leadership with the River Guard talked about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I'm such a, like, let's not do anything anybody else has ever done. And then you go and you look at the reality of that situation is, how many songs can you write that you can teach people organically? And that's happening in the bars. So, like, I'm at Brown Beard Brewing this morning. We're getting ready to brew our very first River Guard beer that we're going to sell, and right around the corner from the stadium. Our big thing was, like, how do we be authentically us without it being a copy of Seattle, a copy of Portland, a copy of Galaxy or Liverpool, or name your favorite club. And that's what we're doing. So, one of the things was, let's not use a single song we heard in our time as supporters of other clubs. And so we've been writing a lot. We've probably got 20, 30 songs that, are going to boil down to 4 or 5, because it's really hard to get 500 people, which is what our supporter section holds, 550, to sing one song, let alone 4 or 5. So, we've got part of our drum squad. Jonathan is from Argentina, and he brings a ton of Argentine flair in his drumming and has been teaching us Spanish for those of us that did not know those songs. And we're kind of rewriting them to fit us, to fit Boise. So, yeah.
That's
so
cool.
Sounds like you've been doing a lot of work and meeting up with the supporters quite a lot. You got songs written and you got beer brewing around the corner. So is there like a March match? Do you have your guys' like path all planned out already?
We think we do. It's about a 10-minute hike from where we are to the stadium in the safest possible way. We have a pretty busy road out front, and that happens to be the pathway right into the stadium grounds. So we're working on alternate paths through kind of the neighborhood behind us to get there. But yeah, we've got that down.
You mentioned that when you went to the brand reveal, when you heard the team talking, nobody said anything about supporters. Now, that kind of gets into a little weedy area about whether clubs should be directly involved in supporter groups anyway, right? Which I would love to hear your opinion about. But that thing about working with the club, right? Because you do want to have a relationship with the club. You maybe don't want to be controlled by the club or dictated to by the club, but you want to have a relationship. So tell me where they're putting you. Tell me what the club has done for you.
Yeah, you bet. I mean, that was one of my biggest stakes in the ground that I made sure everybody understood was super important to this culture, which is independence. When you go to our website, you will see independent supporters of AC Boise right under the banner, because for us, being completely separate from the club is important, right? We don't really want anybody telling us what we can and can't do within the rules of USL, right? And the club has been amazing. We've had access to anything we wanted. So, Brad Stith, our owner, he made sure the supporter section had safe standing. He is very aware of what supporters bring to match day, what they mean for the product on the field, what they mean to, the rest of the people in the stands. And so they've given us access to everything. I think 5 or 6 of us were there a week ago Monday to walk the grounds. They gave us a full tour of everything, which I don't think a lot of people in the town have actually seen that aren't media. They let us go over the supporter section, take measurements, because we've got drum stands to build and capo stands to build. And we've got ambitious plans for TIFO. So knowing how big those sections need to be, they didn't just send us, architectural drawings and say, here's what you can do. And so they've been nothing but gracious, giving us access to everything and, giving us points of contact. I mean, I'm here today because, the head of marketing called me yesterday and said, hey, can you go on morning kick around? And I was like, sure, why not? Let's do that. And then they said 8 a.m. and I winced a little bit, but yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, it's early for you. In the
We
mountain
appreciate
time
you coming
zone.
on.
We do appreciate that. I threw up
I'm
some
happy to do
pictures. That aforementioned marketing director sent us some photos of the first training on the pitch at the new stadium, or at the stadium there in Boise. So shout out to Krista for sending these over. Obviously, you're seeing some players. Look, nice mountain background there in Boise, which is obviously going to be a feature of this. But I think. So that's the main stand, right? So
Yeah.
give us, and then obviously there's sort of an additional stand that's below that.
Yep, those are all those are
Go ahead.
those are all suite seats, I think, below
Right.
the main stand. So to the left of the players, and I'm not trying to plug our Instagram, but if you go to our Instagram, Jason, you will see the supporter section.
Okay.
It's right behind the goal in the south. So it's very, very steep. 550 safe standing. I call them spaces because they're not actually seats. Our entire section is GA. So when people come in that have supporter section seats, it's kind of find your favorite place to be and join on in.
And so I want to get kind of just like try to capture this moment for you right now as this concept becomes a reality, because we're seeing pictures here of your team, the players on your home stadium turf for the first time. These are pictures from, I think, yesterday or the day before. So you're about over 3 weeks until the first game, and the players are in town now. Try to articulate what this feeling is being right on the edge here.
It's amazing. It's we've had a lot of interaction with players. Certainly, Blake, being a hometown kid, I used to do trivia like at a bar on Tuesday nights, and his dad was like on an opposing team. So I've heard the Blake stories forever. He played at the same club my kid plays for. So we're super proud to have Blake here. He's a hell of a player. The rest of the guys, Jake Dangler, is a guy that he came into town and knew nobody. Boys are leaving for spring training down in San Diego and needed somebody to help out with his dog. And one of our members immediately jumped up and said, I will take his dog. And so those interactions are happening more and more frequently, especially now that they're back. And it's amazing. The excitement is through the roof. I don't even have the right words to explain what this means to the city, what this means to me as a football fan and supporter, and getting to see people fall in love with this sport before we've even kicked off the ball, right? Like there are people that have come up to me at a bar at a member meetup saying, I've never been to a match. Can I do this with you guys? And we're like, absolutely, jump in. And they're watching YouTube videos and they're seeing what happens all around the world. And they're like, are we going to do that? I'm like, yeah, that'll be us. Probably not fireworks, but yeah, smoke and drums for sure.
So here's my question real quick, if I could. And I know I'm going to put you in a very difficult position, Ryan. I think I don't know. I think I know the answer, but let's imagine that at some point in the near future, we get to a U.S. Open Cup match and AC Boise is up against the Seattle Sounders. Ryan, how you
Yeah.
feeling? What's going on?
I hate it. I hate it. I hated watching the Sounders play West Ham in a friendly because, I follow West Ham in England and have for, 25 years. I would hate every minute of that, but I'll tell you, I'm here. My roots are here. I wish everybody on the Sounders well, but damn, would I love to see a USL 1 team beat an MLS giant.
Yeah, that would be a great story. That would be a great
It
story.
would be horrible.
One of the other things, I mean, yes, difficult for you. One of the things, obviously, Ryan, that we keep having to ask coaches, your coach, Nate Miller, everybody else
Yeah.
that comes on the show, is what promotion and relegation means. And obviously, AC Boise starting at a very interesting time in American soccer where
Yep.
USL has this plan, and it's a USL League One team, and that's the right level to start at. It's a
Sure.
relatively low investment and those things we can see what the culture brings and how many fans show up, and they don't have to get out over their skis. But there's always a chance of moving up. So what do you think about this plan for USL?
I mean, I love it. On paper, I love it. Let's see how they actually execute on it. What does it mean to teams that are getting relegated? I think that's the biggest concern for me with USL is the teams that get relegated are going to be in a real financial pinch, and I think that's what should be like the motivating factor for these clubs is don't get relegated and stay up and get promoted. For us, our club has huge ambitions, right? Brad has not shied away from the fact that he wants to be a premier team in 2 or 3 years. He's already bought seats for the other side of the stadium to get this place to 15,000, and he's not messing around. So I think you could look around USL One, look at who spent the money this year, and it was Boise and Cosmos, right? They went crazy on how much they spent on players and bringing players in, and crazy is relative, right, to this league. But it's they were the big spenders and they mean business. So I think you see that. You guys have talked to Nate, you've talked to Bill Taylor, you've talked to Brad. They all have the same ambition, which is we're getting promoted in the first year we can get promoted, and they will fight for that. So it's exciting. We're going to be here whether they win or lose, and we'll stop. We won't ever stop singing. So it's we'll be those annoying people in the South End that are screaming even when it's not the right day. But we hope to have more better days than bad days.
Yeah,
exciting times ahead, and AC Boise's first game for the River Guard to support 24 days. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for bringing along some friends. I saw one of your fellow River Guardsmen gifted some memberships. So thank you so much for doing that. And I couldn't be more excited for you to be in this position. Very unique moment, and all the best as your support progresses towards reality.
One more
here
question.
In 24 days.
One more question. Sorry. And I mentioned this several times on the show before. I'm sure, Ryan, you caught this. My sister lives in Boise, so I'm hoping to get out. I'm hoping to find some way to double up and go see her and also be part of what's happening at AC Boise. What I have learned about Boise is that there is a strong Basque presence in Boise. And I'm wondering, I know that maybe even Bilbao has come or there's been some attempt to connect to the Basque community through soccer in Boise. And I'm wondering how the River Guard is if you're integrating any of that, if there's any connection to the Basque community.
It's a great question. And by the way, your sister has not reached out to us yet. So we expect your
I'm going to tell her,
a member.
Yeah, that's what I need to do.
We've always got seats for you guys. So anytime you come out, you're welcome. I mean, the Basque community here is huge. I think everybody's got friends that are Basque or a cousin, right? We hear it all the time. We haven't had like a ton of like connection with specific bars or restaurants within kind of the Basque district. It's part of our like long-term, right? How do we bring in more of that? Because for us, it is a huge part of our culture here. But not necessarily something that all of us are directly connected with. So it's a future thing for us.
Okay. All right, Ryan, thank you for waking up bright and early for us.
You're
Ryan
welcome.
Pritchard, the River Guard, 24 days until AC Boise kicks off as a professional soccer club. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, chat, for chiming in. And thank you for those donations of memberships. If you want to do likewise, there's buttons below the screen to do so now. Or you could just, free of charge, become a subscriber to the channel or tell
Do
your
it.
friends that might be
Yeah.
interested in getting in on this.
Yeah. By the way, shout out to Ryan for coming on. Shout out to Roger
Yeah.
was in here and gifted those memberships to the channel. We really, really appreciate that. We're glad to, it's we get to talk about AC Boise and the River Guard, and they're supporting the show, and we love that. Absolutely love that. I would say, thanks to them as well for spreading the word. And I saw they posted to their Instagram that Ryan was coming on the show, and I saw a Reddit post about it as well in the USL subreddit. So I know that Boise's excited. The River Guard is excited. So thank you very much for your support.
We even got a podcast invitation if we go out there to come on the local AC Boise podcast. So that would be fun as well. We have one more segment to go here on Wednesday's edition of Morning Kick Around. Stick around. That's coming up right now. One more item of news. Per a Sportico report that came out on Tuesday, there are now 5 Major League Soccer clubs that have a valuation over $1 billion. That's $1 billion with a B, with Inter Miami leading the way for the first time at $1.45 billion.
All right, so first, this framing from Sportico, who did these valuations. New 2026 MLS team valuations. Inter Miami ranks first at $1.45 billion, up a league high 22%. This, I think that's probably tied into the fact they're moving into their new stadium this season. They still have Lionel Messi on the payroll. The average MLS team is worth $767 million, up 6% from last year. 5 clubs are worth more than $1 billion, as you just said, Rob. Here's the top 5. Inter Miami, LAFC, LA Galaxy, Atlanta United, and New York City FC, which is also building their own stadium, and I imagine will jump up dramatically when that building opens. It's next year, 2027, for that stadium. I don't care. I don't care. Look, this is one of those things. I think you said it, Rob, as we were talking about how to talk about this. Why are these valuations what they are? Right? Why are MLS teams valued at over $1 billion? Because they're money-making machines? Not so much. Right? Because what is it? Look, and this is the thing. Look, I don't have an economics degree, right? I'm not well-versed in every intricate detail of how this stuff works. But I can tell you that this comes down to, for me and for a lot of people, just a matter of scarcity. Right? This is just about, do you want to be a fancy lad who owns a soccer club? And you have choices, obviously, in that regard. And we've seen Americans who have significant amounts of money decide that they want to be fancy lads in England, where they actually are fancy lads because it's England. And then so they go buy a team, sometimes in the top division, but oftentimes in the championship or in League One, because the idea is we can move up in the world. That's not how MLS works. MLS is a closed shop, but that means MLS has some advantages for people. I don't know how to read this other than I guess it's okay. I guess it's good on some level. It's one of those things that doesn't really impact the average fan insofar as you don't care if somebody sells your club unless the person who comes in is a shitty owner, and then you care. You worry about revenue, maybe, if only because that could play into what your team does on the field in terms of signings. Remember also that MLS is single entity. So what does it even mean? I know clubs are sold, but it's really the operating rights that are sold. You're just buying into Major League Soccer's pool of shares. Yeah.
So yeah, is Inter Miami, not to deride anything, but in terms is Inter Miami essentially the most sought after franchise within one company? And then so that location of that broader company has a higher valuation. And then it's also, a buy low, sell high situation. And all the owners have a say, or the operators are all in one room, and it probably benefits all of those people for all those, line go up sort of things. But it also seems fragile. Is Inter Miami valued at 1.45 billion if Messi is injured and is done for the season? Like, does that pop the balloon there? And then you also touched on it. Scarcity. Obviously, we're talking about USL trying to expand to 70 different cities across the country. So there's a lot of places that want them. And so, yeah, you limit that at 30-ish clubs that they're at. So the demand is outweighing the supply. And then there's no possibility of relegation. So and a lot of the time the public is paying for the stadium. So it's like if you have a team and you're not having to pay for the stadium being built, those things might all play into that.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. 100%. How much? Yeah. And revenues do matter. It's not that they're not part of this. It's just that MLS revenues, right? And we were talking before the show, Inter Miami, I don't have this graphic, but per Jenny, our producer, Inter Miami's 116th among American professional sports franchises in terms of value. So the top MLS team is behind 115 other professional sports clubs in America. That's the NFL, that's the NBA, that's Major League Baseball, and that's probably most of hockey, right? In order to be 116th. So in that framing, is it impressive? $1 billion seems like a lot. $1.5 billion is definitely a lot for you and me. Nobody's clocking a check for $1.5 billion. They're financing this. They've got partners. It's a shared ownership situation, majority, minority. Again, like, what does this really mean? Obviously, for MLS, they're going to crow about this because numbers are numbers look pretty, right? Big numbers look pretty. It's why certain people, and again, we're ranging into territory that not everybody loves talking about. Certain people they'll throw out big numbers just because they look fun or they sound fun. And then people who don't really have a sense of what those numbers actually mean or how to contextualize them go, oh, that's a great number. Oh, he's 30 billion. Oh my gosh. Right.
Which area would you say that MLS is leading at? Is it on the field or off the field? Would you say, would they, they're a leader in
why this,
where are they succeeding the most? And I would say that they're succeeding the most in the commercial sector. And, numbers and speculative numbers go over well in board meetings and advertising pitches.
Yeah, look, it's just like any startup that's got an incredibly high valuation despite not delivering any revenue at all, right? These companies that are built on an idea and they have to spend money and spend money and spend money and they're losing money and they're losing money and they're losing money. But everybody goes, but if they capture the market, it go crazy. It's going to be, unicorn level stuff. Or whatever they call that, that's not quite what MLS isn't on a house of cards quite that flimsy, right? But again, it's not as though you can point to MLS and say this is one of the most valuable sporting enterprises in the world. Even in their sport, they're 5th, 6th, 7th down the list. Right, in terms of what they deliver, in terms of attention, the on-field quality is sort of secondary to all this, but obviously it has a role to play. The higher the perceived quality, the more interest, generally speaking. Like, a lot of this is built on the potential. American soccer has always been about potential. I actually don't have any problem with this, right? Like, I don't have any, it's not like I'm mad about it or I'm saying it's all ridiculous and fake. It is what it is in the sense that if somebody was willing to buy Inter Miami, they would probably have to pay Jorge Mas, his brother, and their partners $1.5 billion because that's just the price for this thing, right? Is it worth that? Well, it's worth that if somebody's willing to pay that. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, I wonder what that number would look like if there was a more profitable broadcast deal. As we know, the Premier League has jumped way above the top of the pile in the world because of their broadcast deal. And we've talked about it. The Apple deal is not that.
No, if MLS was able to even drive NHL broadcast revenue, then MLS teams' valuations would zoom past NHL valuations because it's a bigger sport in terms of the potential market. Nothing against hockey. Hockey's fun. I like hockey. I'm watching the Olympics right now. They got some good hockey happening over there. But if you think about what the potential reach is, this is the world's game. A lot of this is baked into the idea that if MLS can just get a little bit of that potential realized, well, then, revenues go crazy. Sponsorship goes crazy. Broadcast rights go crazy. Even in a world where you are competing with the Premier League, Liga MX, and other competitions like that.
While we're talking about speculation, this isn't something we covered earlier, but a question that comes to mind. Do you think that people are falsely hoping that the World Cup will suddenly just make numbers shoot up?
I don't think these valuations are tied necessarily to the World Cup, but obviously the World Cup has some power in creating an environment where people believe everything's going to go big. I mean, again, not to pretend to be economics expert guy, but how much of any market is based on confidence? How much of it is sort of ephemeral and not real? And when we talk about bubbles and how they eventually burst, like why does a bubble exist? Well, everybody gets really excited for something. And now I got to have that and I got to have that. And everybody wants to battle for getting their hands on whatever the thing is. That it expands. And then one day everybody realizes, oh, there's a bunch of bullshit. This actually doesn't mean this doesn't have any value at all. Why do I have all these Beanie Babies? And then the market crashes, right? The scarcity is no longer there, whatever it might be. Now, again, professional sports beget scarcity. Even as the MLS continues to expand, they're not going to get to 50, 60 teams, at least not in one league, right? So you can always say when there are billionaires and people interested in professional sports and want to be attached to this, whether it's because they think there's going to be eventually revenue and profit, or because, again, you buy your house and you live in it, and that's the value. Living in it is the value. And then if you get equity in your house, if the price of your house goes up per the marketplace, if you don't sell your house, you're not realizing that equity, but you do on paper have more money. Does that make sense? And it's the same thing with any sports club. So when Jorge Mas bought this and when they launched into Miami, they didn't pay $1.45 billion. So even if they're not realizing the revenue or the profit from this right now, they can point to this and say, well, look at us. Look at the value. And look, they're thinking on levels you and I are not, because they are billionaires and we're not. So that's what it is. I don't love this idea that any of this is a pyramid scheme, because pyramid schemes are literally, I take money from somebody that just bought in without telling them that I'm doing this, and I'm paying the old investors, right? Bernie Madoff was not informing people, hey, if you buy in with me, I'm going to spread your money around to the older investors and make them think that they're making money. He wasn't telling everything is very much out in the open, in the sense that if you buy an MLS team, you know exactly that money is going to go to those other owners as part of a share, because they all own a piece of the single entity, right? And again, there's this idea of, do people want to do this because it's just fun? Do people want to do, and I'm talking about people who have the money to do it, want to do it because they think it's going to grow and explode? If you can't buy an NFL team because there's only so many of them and that's a closed shop, you can't buy a baseball team because there's only so many of them and that's a closed shop, or it's too expensive, or NBA, whatever. MLS is your option. MLS is an opportunity to be part of a unique club of professional sports franchise owners.
All right, that'll pretty much wrap up our show for the day. But this time next week, we'll be 1 hour into our Marathon Kickathon 2026. So tune in next week. This time, we are going to be starting at 9:30, our usual time, going for 3+ hours with special guests, games, announcements, and some surprises.
Absolutely. Yes, become an ultra to put your name in a hat to be part of that show. If you're here now, we know you can be here for part of that show, and maybe you want to participate. Become an ultra to support the show and spread the word. We do have guests lined up. I'm working on some significantly interesting, how was I going to say this? Big names? I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So I'm working on some stuff. We're working on some stuff. We got some games lined up. I think we're going to do a couple of very interesting things. We might even play a game with some badges, I think, have some fun with American soccer badges. We're going to talk about all the big issues and have some fun. And I do want as much interaction from our viewers as possible. And I think maybe for the Kickathon, Robert, we suspend our ultras comments only rule for the day, just to foster that conversation, get people to show up, maybe see what it's like to be part of what's going on here at Morning Kicker.
Yep. And reach out to us if you'd like to get involved in some games. And as we try to integrate the ultras into those games, reach out to us. Probably the best way, Discord server, direct messages might be the best way to do that. If you want to get yourself thrown in the mix of a game or anything like that, send us a message. You can become a member, just a few bucks a month You get priority commenting on screen during these live shows, bonus content for you, and then access to the Morning Kick Around Discord server, which has threads from local stuff, ultras building their own clubs, all the way up to the national team conversation.
Rob, can I convince you to do a little bit of a members only stream today for
now?
just a little while? Yeah, just right. Yes. Thank you, Super Trooper. Yes, right now, I would like to do it. Is that something we can do? Are you free? Are you available?
I am free and available.
Okay. I'm starting the clock. 5 minutes. I wanted to give people a little bit of time. 1 minute seems too short. That seemed unfair. So 5 minutes on the clock for our members only stream. I'm not seeing the countdown. I used to see the countdown. Maybe it's not. Oh, there. Okay. Yeah. 5 minutes until the clock turns us over to a members only feed. So again, Kickathon coming up a week from today, working on details for that spectacular show, 3 hours of us blabbing about American soccer, having fun, reveling in the weirdness and the joy and the excitement that's coming. I think maybe we'll have a no bad vibes rule on that show, at least for a day, just to kind of celebrate rather than talk about anything that might be a little troubling in American soccer. Maybe I'll show off some of my gear. I know one of our ultras, and he was in here earlier. And thank you for the kind comment. I believe Angus got his scarf that I sent him.
Hey.
An old St. Louis FC scarf, a dead soccer club, a dead American soccer club. Let's play Spot the Dead American Soccer Club in Jason's studio, maybe on Wednesday as well, Rob. That could be a thing.
Yeah, well, amongst the games might be something like who can continuously keep naming dead soccer clubs until one of us run out. And seeing as how you have a cave of these things, I might be at a little bit of a disadvantage.
You mean it's not fair if I just like spin my chair around and I go, oh, look at that dead soccer. Well, no, that was not that. Where is what? Is there one on my
energy?
Rebirth, is that a
yep,
dead
Lansing
soccer
United. Yes, Lansing United is definitely a dead soccer club. That's the one that got killed for Lansing Ignite, which then became Lansing Common.
Oh, there's a dead soccer club right there too. Look at that.
Scorpions. Ooh.
San Antonio Scorpions. Yeah.
What is
another one here? That's a dead soccer club right there too, Rob.
City Islanders. I love that. Is that City Islanders in like the Hudson River? I saw a story about a baseball team.
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, capital Pennsylvania, Harrisburg City Islanders, kaput, dead, dusted. They changed their name for a little while to something Penn FC, and then they disappeared, dropped off the face of the planet. So, and I think I even have jerseys for dead soccer clubs hanging up next to me. I mean, again, it's bad that they're dead, but I do think it's important to remember them. Like, we shouldn't just forget that they existed and move on like nothing happened. So I'll have to take stock of what else I have in here that is for dead soccer teams, and we'll just maybe we'll do that as part of our thing as well, because
Jenny's partisan nature is coming out in our private chat. She had bad words to say about Lansing United, former NPSL rivals there, and just yesterday I learned some news that adds some heat to the rivalry between Oakland County FC and the Flint City Bucks. A little bit of player poaching. We talked about potch poaching earlier, but some player poaching happening in the Great Lakes division of USL 2. So the heated rivalry is getting close to home.
Yeah, this is such a weird thing for me to be like turning around, looking at my studio, like, oh, what else do I got in here? And I did say, by the way, this is another perk of being an ultra. I'm going to work through my backlog, and there's a significant one, but we do have a soccer swap meet channel. That was meant for everybody to swap things, not just me sending stuff from my studio. But if you do want something from my studio, unless it has a very personal meaning, I will send it to you. When I get that, I will send it to you. Ask Angus. I do follow through eventually. He got himself a St. Louis FC scarf. No jerseys. I'm going to keep my jerseys. But other than that, there might be something in this room, in this studio of mine, that you want to get your hands on, because it's a unique piece of American soccer history. Some memorabilia. I'm not Pablo Maurer. He's got an incredible collection of like Johan Cruyff's game-worn jersey from the Diplomats. I don't have that stuff. I just have dead soccer team scarves and shirts.
Yeah, he's got an incredible array of anything that says dips or diplomats on it. And we're
30
getting
seconds. 30 seconds.
seconds. So become an MK Ultra now, and you'll be able to get into this bonus episode. So just do a few dollars a month, gets you access to bonus content, Discord
Yeah.
server, and much, much more.
Be
And we're
part
gonna
of
have
the
a little bit.
discussion of what the clanger should look like for the Clang the Clanger situation. Is it Clank the Clanger or Clang the Clanger? I don't know. We're going to talk about that in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right,
All right, now we'll be
are we in the
filming. Yeah.
bonus? Are we in